Hello and welcome everyone this evening.
Hello, everyone.
We are very glad to be here and have the opportunity to talk with folks tonight. It's a small group, so this is an informal presentation. As far as we welcome your comments or your questions if you have them. During the presentation, we'll try to watch for the chat and answer a question in real time. If we miss one, we'll go back and cover it at the end of the presentation. We want to use this time as effectively as possible. We know a lot of you have had a long work day, as we have too, and we're really impressed with you coming together just to hear more about MCE. My name is Leanne Hoadley. I am with MCE, and I'll let my counterpart introduce herself.
Hi, everyone. My name is Mariella Herrick, and I am also with MCE. I'm a community development manager, and I'm so excited to be chatting with you all today.
And speaking from off screen, I'm Carol Weed, and I'm with 350 Contra Costa, and that's the organization that's sponsoring the meeting tonight, and we welcome you. We want you to know that in addition to learning tonight, we hope you will take an action. So in the chat box, I'm going to put a couple links. One is for a simple petition you can glance at and click to participate, and the other is an address that you could send a comment to the mayor of Orinda if you're so inclined. We will also be recording this, or are recording this, and so we'll in a couple days send you information and the link to the recording and some other action items that we hope you'll take action on. Most importantly is sharing the word. We want you to be sure that you let family, friends, other people in Orinda, and this applies both to residents and to people who have businesses in Orinda. So please spread the word for us. Thank you.
And with that, we'll go ahead and dive in. And like always, feel free to raise your hand or drop your question in the chat. So we like to start all of our presentations by really emphasizing the point that climate change impacts us all and is one of the biggest threats that we're facing today, from an increase in the number of extreme weather events to dramatic health impacts. Climate change is about more than just things getting hotter. And over the past decade, we've really seen these impacts of climate change in our own communities. And so we need to make every effort we can to reduce the dangers of climate change and reduce greenhouse gas emissions. So the United States is the second largest producer of greenhouse gas emissions. And since the Industrial Revolution, there's been a major increase in greenhouse gas emissions in the US and in the world. In 2018, over half of the emissions produced in the US were from transportation and electricity alone. But the good news is that here in California, that number is closer to 14% in terms of electricity greenhouse gas related emissions. And that's partly and largely due to organizations like MCE who are making an impact on our electric grid. So we are what is known as a community choice aggregator. So let's talk a little bit more about what that means. So to set the stage a little bit, in 2002, there was state level legislation passed, Assembly Bill 117, that allows agencies like MCE to exist. This legislation allows for communities, cities, counties to pull together and aggregate the electric load of residents, businesses within their community. So instead of an investor-owned utility like PG&E purchasing power for communities, AB 117 allows for cities, counties to purchase that power themselves. And at a high level, CCAs are, like MCE, are public not-for-profit agencies that purchase renewable energy on behalf of our customers as an alternative to investor-owned utility, which in our county, Contra Costa County, is PG&E. Now, I know that's a lot of information, so let's actually talk about what that means. I like to think about electricity in two parts. One being generation, where the energy is coming from, and two, delivery, thinking about how that energy gets to your home or business. So as an MCE customer, MCE will take over the generation side. So choosing cleaner energy renewable options for you, that energy then gets onto the electric grid. PG&E is still involved. They are in charge of delivering the energy to your home. They will maintain the bill. So from now on, and I'll show you this in a few, you'll see a bill where you'll see a line item for MCE, and then they are responsible for the transmissions and wires. And then for you, the customer, you continue to get reliable service. And now you have options on your renewable content. So as far as the state of California goes, MCE was the first community choice agency, but it's certainly not the last. Since our launch in 2010, there are now 24 statewide CCAs active. And again, this has had a major impact in reducing our greenhouse gas emissions to 14% for our electric load. So now that you have a little bit more context on what a CCA is, let's talk about MCE specifically. So our mission is to address climate change by reducing energy-related greenhouse gas emissions and providing renewable energy and energy efficiency programs at cost-competitive rates while also centering economic and workforce benefits, ultimately to create more equitable communities. We have 37 member communities in 4 Bay Area counties, as you can see on the map here. We're in Contra Costa County, Solano, Napa, and Marin County. We have 580,000 accounts, which equates to 1 million customers. And as a local public agency, we are governed by our board of directors made up of elected officials from the communities that we serve. The board directly meets quarterly, and it's open to the public, and they make decisions on our rates, our programs, and our funding. And now I think it's important to talk about CCA model is making an impact significantly on the state of California. So this is some information validating CCAs from the Luskin Center at UCLA. As you can see on the left-hand side of the screen, UCLA has indicated that CCAs have played a key role in helping the state meet its RPS standards. And here at MCE, we're actually 13 years ahead of our schedule in procuring state-mandated renewables. And so now we're going to talk a little bit about your energy options, and I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Leanne.
So as you can see, the standard service with PG&E is currently 31% renewable. MCE's standard service is 61% renewable, and then we have an option that is 100% renewable, and that is from 50% wind, 50% solar, and all of this generation is located in California. What people often ask is, how is this going to show up on my bill? Number of things stay exactly the same even when a community decides to join MCE. And one of those things is that the billing continues to come from PG&E. And what happens is the coupled costs between the cost to deliver energy to your home and the cost to purchase that energy typically are all bundled into one price, so you can't see the difference. When you join with MCE, those two prices are decoupled, and you can see exactly what you pay for distribution and transmission, as well as what is being charged for generation. And so it's not an additional charge, it's just separating out the two charges so you can see them both very clearly. And MCE's electric generation charges are show up on your bill and you can see them.
Sorry, Leanne.
So, no, that's okay. So you can go to the next slide. So this is the question, obviously, that folks want to see the answer to. Right now, and as of March 1st, MCE is currently approximately 8% less total bill than you will see as a PG&E customer, as solely a PG&E customer. And there are a couple of elements that I mentioned when we were looking at the bill that's important to point out here, because it's a question we often get. So the actual purchase of your generation and the cost of your generation has actually been lower with PG&E the entire time we've been in service. And so you can see at the very top row in bold, the MCE electric generation as compared to PG&E electric generation service. We have our default light green, which is on the farthest right. We have our 100% renewable service next to that. We then have something called local soul, where that service is coming from actual local generation that's nearest to you. And there's some other elements of local soul, which I'm not going to go into right now, but if you have questions, we can follow up with you on that. The other fee you see in here, the second line, is electric delivery. That stays the same regardless of whether you're solely a PG&E customer or you're with PG&E and a CCA like MCE. And that, again, that remains the same. Many of you may have experienced an increase in your electric bills starting January 1st, and that is when PG&E did raise their transmission distribution rates. And so everybody felt that across the board. The third line is what's often called an exit fee. There's a much longer name for it, but it's easy to be called an exit fee. And this is something that customers who leave PG&E and join a CCA pay. And it is to make PG&E whole for any of the energy contracts they have purchased in the past, based on the expectation that they would be providing power across the board to all customers. We've seen recently a great reduction in this, and as well as March 1st, PG&E increased their generation rates. So with the exit fee going down and generation rates from PG&E going up, we do see now an 8% bill difference, 8% less with MCE. I want to make sure I address any questions that might generate. Okay, we'll go to the next slide. So there are additional benefits to joining a CCA, and that is additional programs. MCE offers a myriad of programs for residential as well as business customers, from energy efficiency to demand response to energy, battery storage, and even workforce education and training. We can go to the next slide. A couple of the programs we're really excited about offering, and this is unique to MCE, is our contribution to really this transportation electrification. And we have a rebate for multifamily and business charging stations, which is up to $3,500 per charging station. And a $3,500 electric vehicle rebate. It is an income qualified rebate, but we are really excited to be able to support these programs, and these are all MCE funded. Next. And we also have, of course, single family energy efficiency programs. These are free to participate in, and as well as business, large and small business energy efficiency programs, also free to participate in. What's important to realize with MCE is that we not only deliver a great energy product, but we're also committed to offering some incredible community benefits to those we serve. And since our inception, which is, gosh, almost 12 years ago, we've made approximately $180 million in community investments, including almost $80 million in customer savings, $81 million in investments to local renewable projects, $17 million in customer programs and rebates. And it is our commitment to give back and support the communities who are a part of us. So what does it mean to join a CCA? So part of that is what we're talking about tonight. Your city council would need to have 2 readings of the ordinance, and the city council would pass the ordinance on the second reading. It's pretty turnkey. We have all of those forms already. Once the city council decides to join, then we request the energy usage of the residents and businesses of that community from PG&E. We do a feasibility analysis, and that makes sure that we can procure the same percentage of renewable power for the new community, and it would not impact the rates of those customers we currently serve. So we do that technical and and financial analysis. It's presented to our board, and our board is, of course, as Mariella mentioned, we have a managing board of electeds from all of the communities that we serve. So they review this implementation analysis plan. They approve the plan. I haven't had them not approve a plan yet. And then we need to put an implementation plan together, and we submit it to the CPUC. The CPUC reviews these once a year during the latter part of the fourth quarter. And then they either approve or not that community joining us within the first quarter of the following year. That's why sometimes this timetable of when a community can actually join looks so long. It's because there's certain timelines that we have to adhere to through the CPUC. So the next eligible time that Orinda could be part of MCE would be spring of 2024.
And that's it for us now. We're happy to take questions. I'll go ahead and stop sharing my screen just so that I could take a look at the chat. And it looks like we do have one question, which is, how can you check to see whether you're at the 100% level or still at the 61% level as an MCE customer?
If you're already an MCE customer, that should be on the bill that you receive. And if you have a question, you can always just give us a call or just email info@mcecleanenergy.org. Ask them the question, they'll take a look and respond to you right away. Carol, did you have a question?
Yes, I do. Can you say something about residents that already have solar? How does MCE work for them?
Solar, yes, fantastic question. So solar customers, we do credit the solar, your solar at the retail rate. But the access solar, we then credit, there's a lot of terms to use, credit back to you at twice the wholesale amount. We also, it's different. The one way that it's different from PG&E is that we credit back at twice the wholesale rate. And the other is that we true up monthly. So the credits that you occur each month offset your bill each month. At the end of the year, if you have built up credit over $50, then we automatically will then cut a check and send you your true up check at the end of the year. But otherwise, it's a pay as it's credit as you go, which can be nice because I know folks sometimes get a very large true up bill at the end of the year that can be challenging at times.
And then the next question I see here in the chat is how many cities are in Contra Costa County already have MCE? And that's 15. There's 15 cities. I can name them all if you want. But you can also check out our, we have a community forward webpage, which I'm going to put in the chat right now, that lists all of the communities in our area.
It's probably easier to list the ones that are not because there's just, we count on one hand.
Yeah. And then the next question, sorry, folks, I'm just scrolling through here. The next question is, has Orinda considered MCE in the past? If so, why did they not move forward and approve it?
There have been considerations from Orinda in the past. I wasn't part of those presentations, so I can't speak to all of the considerations. I'm sure there's folks on the phone here that were probably a part of that decision. And I don't want to speak for Orinda residents. And so if anyone on the call has reasons, you're welcome to share them. Lafayette and Moraga are currently part of MCE.
So the next question we have is how best to ensure Orinda will put this on the agenda for a public hearing, since this report, Pleasant Hill has joined it. Have any other Contra Costa cities joined? Would love to see Orinda consider joining. That's a great question. I think oftentimes we encourage community to lead this information. MCE is always available to do presentations. So if there are other groups that you find that might be interested in hearing from Leanne and I, we're happy to do a presentation. If there are city council members who want to meet with us and have a presentation, we're also happy to do that.
Okay.
Hello, this is Dennis Fay. Can you hear me?
You need the video.
Yes. Hello, Dennis.
Let me turn on the video. There we are. I can answer the question about whether we're going to consider it or not. It's going to probably be a two-step process. I introduced it at our city council meeting last Tuesday, and it was agreed to put it on the agenda, but it will be first a very cursory analysis to determine if conditions have changed since the last time that the city council considered this, which I think they have. And then the next step will be a more detailed analysis by the city staff, and then a decision whether to join or not to join. And my wife and I put a couple of questions in there as well that would be useful to get an answer to.
Yes, no worries. We are scrolling through the chat. But
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Yes. Thank you, Mayor Fay.
The next question is, MC is now cheaper than PG&E. Is this the first time it's cheaper, and will it likely remain cheaper? We have been, and Leanne, correct me if I'm wrong here, but I believe we have been cheaper than PG&E 50% of the time. And because we have a board made up of elected officials, our meetings are public, so they are in charge of setting our rates. And so we encourage folks to talk to their respective board member when the rate setting process happens. The public is welcome to be part of that process as well.
And MCE just recently had a minor adjustment to our rates just in 2022. Prior to that, we had not made any rate changes since 2019.
The next question is, MCE reimburses excess solar at full retail. What does PG&E reimburse at?
PG&E, I believe, is also at the retail rate, which I'm going to just double check that for myself. We're actually going to be doing a solar specific presentation this Thursday, if anyone is interested in joining that. And all questions related to your existing solar and your existing NEM account will be answered, because it can get, we can get very detailed. It would be, I can forward on the link to that presentation, which is going to be Thursday night, very specific to NEM customers.
I'm actually looking for that right now, Leanne.
But yes, we credit at the retail rate, and then your access is at double wholesale.
So the next question is, when is the deadline for deciding to join MCE this year? And if Orinda were to join at some future date wishes to get out, is there a process?
Because we need time to do the feasibility report. And so once a community or a council voted to join, we would ask for the usage data of that area of the community so we could do the analysis. Getting that information can take a month or so, and then we need to do the feasibility study. So we ask that, so that we can have time, we ask that councils make that decision by July at the latest. There may be some opportunity as late as August, but that really is makes it tough for us to get the data, turn around the data and get it to our board.
Before we continue on the chat, Jackie, it looks like you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just going to ask, why haven't the very few cities joined when everybody else has joined? And it's a choice program, so the customers don't have to, they can opt out of it. So I don't see any downside. And there's only what, like Clayton, Antioch, Brentwood, and Orinda who aren't in, something like that.
Mhm.
So it looks like it's working for a lot of other cities in Contra Costa. Have you ever had a city try and leave the agreement?
No, we
No.
have not even an inkling that I know of.
And aren't cities responsible for trying to reduce their carbon footprint and their, and so isn't this a way of meeting the city's own goals to reduce their carbon impacts?
It's an excellent way to meet your carbon impact. And once a city puts together an energy action plan, we support a lot of the data that will go into your reporting on an energy action plan. So yes, those are both very quick and easy ways and no cost ways to meet those goals.
Mhm.
I did want to just go back to the NEM question. So yes, PG&E's NEM program, the credits accrue at retail rates and are applied towards your true-up bill annually. And any remaining retail credits are zeroed out at true-up. And then for MCE, credits accrue at retail rates and are applied towards your monthly bills during the year. And then any remaining retail credits are zeroed out at cash out. PG&E credits at the wholesale rate on your PG&E true update. MCE credits twice the average wholesale rate. And we also offer an annual cash out in the spring. I hope it gave more clarity to the person with the NEM question. I'm sorry it wasn't clear.
Would you like me to answer the question, at least why Orinda didn't join in the first place?
Put the
Mayor
video.
Fay, yeah. Yes.
Yeah, okay. Now, I was not on the council at the time, so I can only tell you what I've heard. And it comes down to a couple of things. Number one, you'll notice that all the cities are not in are very small cities. Orinda and Clayton are the two poorest, not the residents poor, but the municipal corporation, the two poorest cities in Contra Costa County. We have very small staffs, and it's my understanding that previous city council did not feel like they could commit the time of staff to staffing the council member that would have to go to the meetings of the Joint Powers Authority. So that was one thing. It's also my understanding that there was concern about once you're in, you're stuck. There's no way to get out even if the thing goes bankrupt. And I don't know if that's true or not, but it would be useful as I bring it back to the council again to know the answer to that particular question. And I think the other was, and to a lesser degree, that the rates at MCE were higher than PG&E's at the time 5 years or so ago. Now, that's not a particularly big issue for the residents of Orinda. They're not exactly poor people here. While the city doesn't have that much money as a municipal corporation, the residents do. And I believe there was another one, and I don't know exactly what it is, but there was another factor that was mentioned at one point to me, and I wish I could recall it, but I cannot at the time, right now. But that's a little bit of why Orinda is not in that I know of. And to the extent we can find out more about that, it will be useful to be armed with the answer to those questions when it comes back to the council again. And now that I know that we need to take action before July, I'll push our city staff on the issue.
And those are all, very valid questions. And so we thank you for bringing those up. Those are all questions that we are really happy to address. I do want to acknowledge that regardless of one's ability to pay, we want everyone to have a fair rate. And so it's a fair question to ask. MCE's generation costs have been lower our entire service time. It is the exit fee, which is decided on between PG&E and the CPUC, that has fluctuated. We are running a lot of analysis, and it looks like that trend for that continuing to lower is very positive. So we like where that trend is going. As far as what the city needs to do, and I know there's folks on this call that might not effect. But having gone through quite a few enrollments of new cities in the last few years, I can say that MCE staff takes on really the full burden of that. We are here as an extension of the city. We put together the community outreach plan with your input. We make sure that we're not taking a step that you're not in full approval of, but we do the heavy lift on all of it.
And then in terms of the question around if there's a cost to the city, the firewall and the JPA agreement protects cities for in the event that MCE would go bankrupt. MCE has a really high credit rating that was given to us. It's something that we celebrate, and we are very financially stable.
If a city wanted to opt out just their accounts, the city can do that without taking away the option from all of the residents and the businesses in that city. So it's always an option to opt out. So a city can opt out its own accounts without taking away the choice.
Can I just say that I don't think that's the issue of the municipal government opting out.
Okay.
It's the question, can we opt out and then not have to send somebody to the JPA? I'm trying to make sure I cover all the bases so that I understand, and this is how I understood the question to be asked by one of the council members in the past.
Actually, Merfay, yes. In fact, we do have another jurisdiction that has consolidated their board role into one board member. So, and there's a couple of examples of that in Orinda. Napa County, just the Napa supervisor represents all of the Napa cities. So if you wanted the board director that's currently serving on behalf of Lafayette or Moraga to serve on behalf also of Orinda, that's actually very common and can easily be done. Well, they have to agree, and then and they would, they would help support report outs to you of activities that we're doing in Orinda, but we can communicate that directly to you as well.
Yeah, that's very good to know. I mean, the three La Miranda cities tend to work together on a lot of things. It might make sense for us to have one appointee carrying that percentage of the vote, which would be about the size of the population of Walnut Creek, is what La Miranda is. So it might actually make a good deal of sense to rotate who has to go. So that would actually reduce the burden, as some of our council members see, of joining MCE. I appreciate you saying that. Thank you.
And we understand there's a lot of information, a lot of activities that are very much part of the La Miranda area. Mariella is very involved in La Miranda Rotary meetings. And so we kind of feel like we support Orinda even without officially supporting Orinda.
So a few other questions here in the chat, and thank you all for the patience as we've been scrolling through the chat. The next question is from Jim, and it's how will proposed changes to generation or transmissions allocations affect MCE?
I need to read that question just to understand it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I understand it. So Jim, feel free to add more to the chat on that one.
Proposed changes to generation transmission allocation.
No, there were, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
There were recent actions, when I forget the name of it, for the PUC to change the rate balance between generation and transmission, saying that the solar customers weren't paying their fair share, that whole issue.
Yeah.
Is that independent of MCE? I mean, that's just the ratio, and whether it's MCE or PG&E that's providing the power, it doesn't matter. Or...
That is somewhat independent of whether or not you're, with PG&E or MCE, because at CPUC, we're regulated just exactly the same as a load serving entity. We are also regulated by the CPUC, and that part of that, if you're following that, those hearings, the decision has been delayed with no date in sight of when they're going to make that decision. I think the CPUC heard loud and clear from folks on how they felt about some of the additional fees they wanted to incur onto NEM customers. We do set our own NEM rates, so we have some autonomy. But if the CPUC puts on a fee, I think that's probably going to affect customers regardless.
Can I add a little something on that?
Stop your video.
This is what I've heard. Actually, it was just this morning in the news. It says that the CPUC has quietly dropped the whole proposal to increase the fees and so on these community choice aggregation operations. So all I can tell you is what's reported. You guys can go out and verify whether that's true or not.
Hot off the presses, they did get one of the largest upspring of disagreement I think that they had ever experienced.
So the next question we have is the deadline July 1 for Orinda City Council to act? And the answer to that is yes, if you want to make the 2024 deadline. Sorry, that was a tongue twister for me. Just because it takes us time to do the reporting that's necessary, to file it with the CPUC, to file it with our board. So that is the deadline to make that date.
If your council, if the final reading is within July, if the second reading is within July, then we can make that work. But yes, July would be the deadline.
And then I just want to acknowledge that there's a shout out to Mayor Fay in the chat saying thank you for your leadership. The next comment here and question is the City of Walnut Creek meets its 2016-2017 GHG emissions reduction goals solely by joining MCE. Walnut Creek also opted up to 100% renewable energy. What is opting up? And then some cities in Napa delegate, we've already covered that, delegate one city council member to do the MCE board meeting. So opting up is choosing the 100% renewable energy option, which is 100% California solar and wind. It is 1 penny more per kilowatt hour. For residential customers, that's about $5 more on your bill to have 100% renewable energy.
And we use approximately half of that cent to purchase the local generation. And the other cent funds are programs that are specific to MCE.
So an example of that would be like our EV charging program. So a program that a lot of cities have used to install EV charging, or that some businesses have used to install EV charging. Then it looks like there's a document in the chat that is described as the Earth Day, April 22nd, 2019 response from the mayor of Orinda when they last refused to place the item on the agenda. So some information that someone added to the chat there.
Thank you.
Yeah, I put that up there. That was, we had a petition in 2019 and a number of people attend the meetings, and it never made it to an agenda for a public hearing. And we did get that response, which I think is insightful for preparing for this round and to see what is either still applicable or what could be better explained to the city leaders and city staff, because I think there were some erroneous assumptions at the time, but we failed to get it for a public hearing. So yeah, appreciate the Mayor Fay and others trying to get this on an agenda. And I think a lot of these we can answer now, or better answer now.
Thank you, Lyndon. Also nice to see you.
Yeah, you too.
And then the next question is there a standard Join MCE ordinance ready to go?
We have that wording and can share that wording with your city council. We don't need to reinvent the wheel.
And the last question that I am seeing in the chat is PG&E uses a lot of nuclear energy. Does MCE?
So PG&E still does operate their Diablo Canyon nuclear plant. That'll be in operation until I believe 2025. At that point, they will be decommissioning that. We do not purchase any renewable power. I'm sorry, renewable power. It's late at night. Purchase any nuclear power. And so, no, we do not purchase that into our portfolio. When you look at our portfolio of generation, there will show a less than 1% nuclear. And that is because all load serving entities in California are required to purchase energy, 15% more energy than that which we need to serve our customers. And this is to help us always be prepared for unexpected loss of generation and unexpected peak power, like we sometimes see in the summer with extended heat days that actually a lot of the algorithms haven't even been able to incorporate yet because our heat days are so extreme now. And some of that power we are required to purchase, it's basic just state load. And because of that, there is this small residual that could be associated with overall system power. And that's why we acknowledge that there could be some system power within that portfolio, but it is not power that we actually intentionally purchase.
And I don't understand that completely.
It is quite a complicated. The California Independent System Operator and the CPUC have somewhat complex requirements of load serving entities, of which we are. And there is a certain amount of excess power and system power that we are required to purchase, so it is always available. And load serving entities just have to purchase. It's kind of like, sometimes I like to think about it, if anyone is familiar with winemaking, you buy grapes from a specific appellation, but you may need to mix in like 1% red wine mix, and you have to then put on your label anything that could be part of that 1% red wine mix. And that's when we buy system power, which we're obligated to purchase, there is that small percentage that is part of the mix.
Is that power that obligated, you're saying going on all the time, or just in the overload because you can't meet when there'd be a state overload? Or you're required to purchase 15%?
Regardless.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah, it's a requirement of all load serving entities. So we have to purchase above and beyond what we actually need.
And you can't do that without a nuclear in it because you're buying their mix. You don't have the above and beyond power yourself.
At this stage, we and I will get. It's a far more complicated process. So I don't want to do it an injustice by giving a simple answer. And we can definitely follow up. Our procurement team is so much better at explaining this very concisely, but with all of the complexity. And so, yes, there is system load that we do purchase to make up the full 15%. And it may be that is not exercised, but we need to purchase, and that is part of the safety of the grid.
Thank you for clarifying that, and would love to get more info.
I will.
I'm a huge MCE fan, so I just want to be able to answer that question myself at some point.
Absolutely, Linda. We'll forward that to you.
Yep, and we also just put in the chat our operational integrated resource plan that maps out how we're planning to purchase energy for the next 10 years.
Thank you.
But we'll make sure to follow up. I'm not seeing anything else in the chat. at this moment.
Are any of the other cities, the remaining, have you, anybody else see any movement? I think Antioch just didn't do it because they were actually considering the East Bay, whatever the other one's called, EBCE at the time. Anyway, is there any coordinated effort with any other cities and Orinda maybe doing this all at the same time?
We have spoken with a council member with Antioch who has interest. What is unfortunate is sometimes the topics that come up when discussing the benefits of a community choice aggregation program, they can be politicized when really clean air, clean water is pretty universal, we think, and really shouldn't trigger any political conversation, but it does. So I think if it's an election year, there are certain council people that are afraid of just bringing up anything new, and we respect that is they want to. It's their election to run, and we respect their decisions to either bring something new up or not. But I think at a time now when the percentage of savings could be really significant for folks, it might be a really good time to bring it up. We really enjoy working with Antioch, and a lot of our programs overlap with Antioch, so we would love to bring them on board and offer all our services, because really, it's a win-win. Customers still have access to PG&E programs, and then with MCE, they have, add to the cleaner portfolio for the state, and they have access to more programs.
Carol, I see your hand up.
Yes, I just wanted to remind folks that in addition to getting a lot of important information and almost overwhelming amount of details today, there'll be a recording sent to everybody on this call, and you can watch for that. But also we need you to speak up. Please talk with friends. Please write a letter or make a phone call to a city council member so that they know you're interested, or better yet, show up at a Zoom city council meeting and let them know, because many people in Orinda aren't even aware of MCE. They have no clue. It's not something that's a subject that comes up in conversations they have with their friends who live in Moraga or, Lafayette. They just don't talk about their energy sources over lunch. So make sure that you add that to the lunch conversation in the coming week.
Thank you, Carol.
Thank you, Carol. I see a note here that says, I'm a member of the Orinda Community Church. It's my understanding that some members were active last time. I'll spread the word and share. So glad to see the mayor here supporting this. I have to go, thanks.
Okay, can I ask something of the group? If someone could send me an email to my city email address with the answers to some of the questions that were asked today. And thank you, whoever mentioned the liability question. That was the one other thing that came up the last time it was discussed. So if you could address those things in a very brief email to me, that'd be great, because I can send it on to the city manager.
The other things that they're offering.
Yeah, and whatever other things you're offering, this idea of the electric vehicle charging thing, that sort of thing. Just don't make it too long, because he's going to attach it to his memo. And I can tell you, as a council member that gets at least 150 to 200 pages each council meeting, the longer it is, the less likely people are going to get through it all. So try to stick to the really important stuff first. But I appreciate you going through this with us today, and it was really helpful, especially the idea that we could partner with our two other La Miranda cities and share one delegate. That will likely make a big difference with some of our council members.
Thank you so much, Mayor Fay. We'll make sure to follow up with you.
Okay, and you have my city email address, I assume.
We can find it.
Yeah, it's on the website. Not hard to do. And I would tell you that one of the reasons that there's a little reluctance today in Orinda is because of the heavy attention on preventing the city being burnt down in a wildfire. that people are frightened, they're nervous about it. But those same group of people that are nervous about that are also the people that are likely to support MCE because they see climate change as having caused a lot of the problem we're facing. So they do go hand in hand, and I think there may be a natural constituency to push the reluctant council members, and that is our Orinda Firewise Council.
Yeah, it's a scary reality for all of us.
Yes.
Yeah.
Especially if you live in North Orinda.
Yes. Yes.
We're done.
Alrighty, any more questions we can answer for you all?
I just also want to say, I think that with the news of Ukraine and everyone talking about being energy independent and having less reliance on fossil fuels, I think the timing of this is very good. I think everyone has it on their mind that we should be having more renewable energy. And MCE, I like to say it's like putting solar panels on your roof and a windmill in your backyard, and you don't have to do anything. So it's a natural, even if you have solar panels, you can still do MCE, and it's good for the environment, and it's good for your neighbors too. I mean, it also contributes to a reduction in air pollution. So it's really good for people who live in polluted areas overall. Even it's not taking care of the car issues, but we need to think about the pollution from our own buildings.
Well, we have a major initiative this year to increase the electric charging stations within Contra Costa County. I think we probably will double them. So thank you, Jackie. I think we're going to recruit you as a spokesperson. You're so eloquently stated everything that very concisely that we did.
And for income qualifying customers, we have a EV electric vehicle rebate for the purchasing of a car that pairs really nicely with a few others. And then our webpage just has resources on various EV rebates that exist, some that are income qualifying and some that don't have any income restrictions or anything. So that's always a tool that's available to folks. I see one final question in the chat that I want to make sure we don't miss, and it just says, Dennis, when should we turn up and lobby the council? And then I think this is a response for that question that says the city council meets on the first and third Tuesday every month.
Tomorrow.
In terms of lobbying the council, it'll be whenever, the logical time is whenever this first report comes back from our city manager on the conditions, what conditions have changed, and any new information that we might have. I don't know exactly when we're going to be able to put that on the calendar. It won't be next Tuesday because it's too short a time frame. And it won't be the first meeting in April because frankly, I won't be there. So it'll probably, the earliest it'll be is the middle of April, which I think is going to be the 19th.
Typically when it is brought up for an agenda, we will do a full presentation. It will have a few more slides than the one we presented tonight. We were wanting to.
Now, this first presentation that's going to come up in April, the council is very clear. They wanted to hear only from the city manager.
Okay.
So it'll be the next one if we decide, yes, we want to go forward with it, that'll be. But you guys provide any information that you have that's useful and condensed that he can attach to his report. That would be very useful.
Do you think the city manager would be open to having a meeting just with us so we can answer his questions?
I suspect he might, yes.
Okay.
And I certainly can encourage him to do that.
Put it on your to-do.
I bet that's a very long list.
And that is a date close to Earth Day.
Yes, it is. It's a nice thing for Orinda to brag about bringing in renewable energy to their city for Earth Day. Very nice.
We would love to support that. But we do, I know Mariella offered this, but we are happy to do these meetings with as large or as small as a group because people have their own personal questions and we want folks to be able to answer the question that's most important to them and hear directly from us. seeing no hands up.
I'm going to make a comment. Am I unmuted? Yes. Just to remind people that if you haven't already signed the petition, it's listed again. So it's at the top of the chat and it's listed again very recently in the chat. So that's a simple click that you could do. That way you stay in the loop as well. If there's new developments, like when is the actual event, the city manager's report going to be discussed at city council, we'll be able to confirm that and send out a blast. So sign the petition, have your friends sign the petition. And thank you very much, especially to Leanne and Mariella and all of you who joined tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you, Jackie. And
Thank you all so
everybody.
much.